the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. Finally, whether you are citizens of America or citizens of the world, ask of us here the same high standards of strength and sacrifice which we ask of you. With a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking His blessing and His help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.
Words befitting a prophet. Folks, it's pretty obvious why they killed that man. He was trying to wake people up. And for the evil ones, that's a no-no. As we approach another historic election, it's important for us to focus on the things that will likely make a positive difference. It's clear that in his inaugural address, President Kennedy was calling for all people to work together. He knew that one man cannot solve all of our problems. Many have lost sight of this wisdom, and that's one of the reasons why we're experiencing so much turmoil. Let's face it, guys, both Joe Biden and Donald Trump have their issues. But even if we had the perfect president, it would still require some effort from us to get our country back on the right track. Notice how at the end of that speech, President Kennedy invokes Almighty God, stating that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. Well, God is a creator, and God gave us the spiritual abilities to create the world that we want. But we must work together in order to create it. And we're not doing that. If you guys haven't realized it by now, this is spiritual warfare. The problems that you guys are seeing in our society are nothing but physical manifestations of a spiritual battle that's taking place right now. And it's a battle that we the people must fight. Notice also how in that speech, President Kennedy says, "Ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man." The spiritual world controls the physical. Dark entities and their agents often negatively affect every aspect of our lives. This includes our government. Therefore, our job is to collectively, keyword, provide the necessary positive focus, intentions, prayers, meditations, visualizations to our politicians so that they may be free to work in our best interests. Guys, they cannot do it without us. I want to play a short clip for you guys. But before I do, I ask that you guys put aside any personal negative feelings that you may have for this individual. The reason for this is because God can use anyone to deliver a positive message and a blessing. For example, in the Bible, in the book of Numbers, chapters 22 to 24, Balak, king of the Moabites, hired a sorcerer by the name of Balaam to speak curses over God's chosen people. Well, God fixed it so that every time Balaam opened his mouth, instead of curses, blessings came out. My point is, if God can use a sorcerer to speak blessings over his people, then he can use anyone.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
Guys, regardless of how you may have felt about him, President Ronald Reagan's words that day were very profound. Now, the alien threat that he was speaking about is war, physical war. You see, politicians rarely focus on the spiritual war that's being fought right now. That's our job, and here's how we can win it. Folks, check out this next clip. It's from a YouTube video that I posted about a year ago. In the early 1980s, during the peak of the Lebanon War, a study was done which had about 1,000 people in Jerusalem all meditating at the same time, sometimes more and sometimes less. It was found that progress towards peace rose when more people meditated at the same time and fell when less people meditated at the same time. These results were published in a Yale University journal. Over the 2 years that followed, this test was repeated by 7 other scientific collaborations, which all produced a marked reduction in violence and war, in some cases up to 80% less war deaths and injuries. Folks, when we unite and work together, miracles happen. If by working together we can gain an advantage in physical warfare, then working together will give us the advantage in spiritual warfare as well. And finally, friends, we cannot just leave our future in the hands of the politicians. Our invisible enemies won't allow them to figure this thing out. We must come into agreement and work together spiritually to create the amazing world that we long for. Once we create it spiritually, it will then manifest before our very eyes. In addition to this, if the intentions of whoever is in office does not align with what we the people have created spiritually, then that person will not succeed, no matter who it is. That's what we can do for our country and for the world. Stay blessed, guys.